Hello and welcome to Nerdarchy. For nerds by nerds, I'm Nerdicus Dave, and today I am joined by Wally DM. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me on, Dave. I actually get a 4 hour break from work, so this is talk D&D during the day. This is awesome.
Well, hopefully this is more fun than work.
Uh,
Yeah. So, you have a YouTube channel. You're growing. You're closing in on the 10,000 mark, which is really cool.
yes, absolutely. Super stoked about that. It seems it's been a long time coming, and definitely looking forward to celebrating it. I love it. I love the channel, and yeah, 10,000. Wow, what a mark! I never thought I'd get that far ever.
So, how did you get started with being a D&D YouTuber? And do you just do D&D over there, or other things as well?
Most of my videos are how's it said? System agnostic, I
Yeah.
guess. So I actually started off more on the Pathfinder side, but my big thing are puzzle videos. I kind of stumbled into it, honestly. I uh, I didn't want to be a YouTuber. It was 2016, and I was just getting into Pathfinder. I took like a 15-year break from Dungeons and Dragons and all that stuff, and I started getting back into it. And to learn Pathfinder is a hard system to learn, especially after 15 years off. So I started watching all these videos, and then I started watching some of the DM side, and I seen other puzzle videos out there, and I was just like, well, I've got a few ideas I'd like to share. So I took my iPad and I recorded 3 different things and doctored them up and threw them out there, and I thought that was going to be the end of it. And then I started and it kind of hooked me in.
So I puzzles is one of the things that I find one of the more challenging aspects of the game to put in, and also it used to be a bigger part of the game. I feel like
Mhm.
puzzles and riddles in earlier editions, especially in first and second. Even like when you know we were we were doing like videos, kind of not really reviewing, but looking at episodes of the D&D cartoon,
Mhm.
and like every single one of those would have a riddle in it, at least
Yeah.
one that we
Yeah.
had done.
Yeah, I mean, that's the era I come from. I mean, there's like 3 pillars of our D&D games. There was combat, the small sliver that was role play back in the day, and then the exploration, which was the traps and the puzzles. And that was just something when I opened up that red book for the first time, there was one in that solo adventure that you go through, and it just hooked me like that.
So, what is your approach to designing puzzles?
Well, that's top secret information, but yeah, sure, I can. um, I've seen it discussed quite a few times, but I just go in and go from the solution and work backwards. I get an idea in mind, like if I'll just be thinking, it's like, what would be cool is I want a puzzle where it is solved using a fork, a knife, and a spoon. And then I just start brainstorming, and I'll think about them for days, weeks, months. There's some puzzles that I'm still working on in my head that I've been trying to figure out for years and don't have a solution to. So just a basic concept of what I want to do, and then I work backwards on how to do it.
Yeah, I find most of the time I just Google and see what puzzles and riddles other people have come up with.
Yeah, that works too. There's definitely a ton of Reddit threads and uh, like D&D Beyond. There's some forums and stuff like that. All kinds of people out there with ideas.
Yeah, I mean, you have a product out on Drive Through RPG.
I do.
That is like, what is it, like 75 puzzles in there?
Close. We got 60 puzzles in there, and yeah, that is the Journal of Puzzle Encounters, and that is definitely my pride and joy. That's something that I promised my dad when I was a kid. I was like, "Hey, I'm going to write a book." I even made him buy me a typewriter, and he's just like, "Okay," So back in the day, before the computers and stuff, and here it is, 30 years later, and I finally get one out there, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's got 60 puzzles in there, and a lot of fun.
Do you have one that's your favorite?
Um, yes, they're all my favorites, but the favorite of the favorites, yeah, I got a couple. And in fact, a story to go along with it, and that would probably be, I like my magic mouth puzzle, which is a lot of fun. So in this one, check it out. your adventurers come into this room. There's 4 murals, and each mural depicts a different scene. You've got one that's got a baker with some sweets and goodies in their hand, one that's got a lady sitting at a picnic table with a pitcher of lemon water, a third one that is a butcher that is stacking some meat, and a fourth one is a brewer with a tankard of ale. Underneath each mural is a 2-inch square where it looks like something can go in there. And then in this encounter, you've got this magic mouth that is just sitting there, either making fun of the players or telling them stories or jokes. And finally, it's like, oh, okay, I see you want to get out of here. All right, you're going to need the key. And he's going to stick his tongue out and give you these 4 white cubes. They all look identical. They're all in shape, size, weight, and things like that. And all you have to do is put those cubes under those murals in the correct order. Well, the only way to find out which one goes where is you have to lick them and taste them. So one's going to taste sweet, one's going to taste bitter, and so on. And once you taste them and put them in the right spots, then that's how you solve the puzzle.
And they're also poisoned.
Yes. Yeah. And then you make a Constitution saving throw.
Yeah, that's different. Now, do all of your puzzles get ran through your players first?
In the beginning, they didn't, but over the last 2 years, I have run puzzle one-shot adventures.
Yeah.
And I usually grab a bunch of folks out of my Discord or Patreon and say, hey, I've got some puzzle ideas I need to test out. When's everybody available? And it used to be really hard for me to find people to play in them. And now I'm getting to where I could run 2 or 3 with a bunch of different groups. And it's absolutely amazing. So yeah, in the beginning, I didn't get to test out a lot, but here lately I've been able to.
So how long does it take people to figure out they need to lick the cubes?
And that particular one, I don't like to let a puzzle go for longer than 5 to 10 minutes before I start throwing out hints and stuff. And it was actually our half orc barbarian Dungeon Danigan that just quiet the entire time. Everybody's like, trying to figure things out. He's like, I licked the cube. And just like, all right, it tastes bitter. I lick another cube. And so, so it probably took about 5 minutes to figure that one out.
I feel like with that one, it's going to be hit or miss. You're either going to have like that player in your group that licks anything anyway, or you don't, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's my games. That's for sure.
So, feedback from the community. Is there one that keeps coming up time and time again as their favorite?
Yes, probably I've got 2 that are neck and neck, and I like to always do things in 2s. I'm sorry, I'm going to give you both of them. The first one's a prismatic owl, which is actually the cover of my book is based off of that puzzle. And it's like a really simple one. If I were to recommend anyone that wants to get started using puzzles in their game, I would say the prismatic owl. And that's basically is you've got this owl, which is the centerpiece of your dungeon. And you start off with 2 blue gems that you can put into the owl, and then it'll shift and open up a passageway. You go down there, you find 2 yellow ones, and then that opens passageway. You find 2 red ones, that opens a way. And then you can start mixing them to go to different areas of the dungeon. But the one that actually gets talked to the most and people that find, I guess, the most cruel is one that's called the Door of the Stone Hand. Yeah. And they encounter a room and it's got a pedestal that it's got a handprint on it. And you can put your hand in there, but it's just slightly bigger than your hand. You go to the next room over, and then there's another pedestal that's filled with blood and Medusa heads on each corner. And the way to open the door in the previous room is somebody's got to put their hand in there, turning it to stone, and then go back over there and using that stone hand to press down on the pedestal. And then, of course, what happens after that's up to the dungeon master. Maybe that hand is a hindrance for like a spellcaster. They're not able to do their components, or, a fighter can't swing a sword, or maybe it's the monk that gets it. And now he's got this, stone hand that he can add extra damage with or something.
He starts implementing the stone hand technique.
Yeah. Ways of the stone hand.
So Ted wants to know, has the evolution of any puzzle changed based on how the players reacted over what you had planned?
Absolutely. And those never made it to my channel. I just tossed those out. It's like, that back to the drawing board. They do a little bit. What was great about, I just recently ran a Halloween one, and I got some great feedback on that, and running them in one shots it's good to see the players take on it. Am I giving too many clues, not enough clues to actually see how they interact with it? Is valuable information. So yeah, I usually keep the core of the puzzle there, but I make tweaks based on feedback.
And so, what kind of tips do you have for when you're running a puzzle and the players get stuck?
Always offer an alternative route. I mean, you don't want it to be a dead end, and use your dice at that point. I mean, I'm old school in the fact that I like the beginning part of the puzzle to be solved usually with player knowledge. I mean, and character knowledge. If they want to make a history check, a religion check, stuff like that, I'll let them. But after about 5 minutes goes through, then that's when you either want to all have them make an investigation or an intelligence check. Use their characters to develop what type of hints I give them. And for every puzzle, I always have at least 2 or 3 hints available. And then if all else fails, you have that lone NPC or that sentient weapon or whatever that seems to know the answer out of nowhere.
So, and, you know, that is always like my other fear about using puzzles is one, like you bring up a great point, and that is that have another way, right?
Mm-hmm.
If and I said we often say the same thing even about like dice rolls, right? Like never let anything be hinged on just a die roll because inevitably, no matter how good your player is doing at doing the thing,
Mm-hmm.
that one crucial roll will be the one they fail that just brings your adventure to a grinding halt.
Right.
Because you thought this would be cool, you know, or
Mm-hmm.
dramatic or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, but the other thing is my fear is like the players are just like will be stuck and it won't go anywhere. And it's so weird and bizarre because I find when you run these games that it's like you give them something for a toddler, they can't figure it out. Give them something that you're like, they'll never get this. And like within 30
Mm-hmm.
seconds, they like know the answer. You
Yeah.
just never know when it comes to players.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And that's if you consider a puzzle hard to put in your game, it's going to be twice as hard for your players. So I always advise start with something easy. And in that situation there, if they're stuck and you need to get them out instead of letting the game come to a halt, that's when like you could have like a zombie come out of a secret door in the floor, or a rock elemental busts out of the door, out of the wall or something, and then it opens up a way to get out of there. Just make it look like that
When
they
all
were.
else fails, enter
Yeah,
the Kool-Aid Man.
yeah. Oh yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if it was a Reddit thread or a Tumblr thread originally or something, but there's like one where you know it's kind of like a meme at this point about puzzles, and they're like, find a puzzle book for kindergartners, and someone's like, that is so rude, and then they come back. I just tried running a puzzle for my group. You're absolutely right.
Yes, and so I'll advertise that. Yeah, mine's for kindergartners. It works fine.
There you go. I took it to the local elementary school and tested it
Yeah.
first. Perfect. Do you find yourself DMing more or playing?
Up until the last year or so, I was always DMing more, and I'm actually in the only campaign that I'm running right now, and we're on like 2.5 years, I think now, 2 years, 2.5 years, and it's a group of other DMs. So within like the past 6 months, we've rotated from me being the only one. We're playing, still are playing Dragon Heist, and now one of the other DMs in our group is running a Theros campaign, and one of the other ones is running Barovia, and then then the other two have also picked up games either in one shots or things like that. So thankfully, I am finally about 50-50 balance, where like my previous 30 odd years of playing, it's always been as a DM.
So it sounds like you guys are running a lot of pre-published stuff.
This is, yeah, our group is, as far as me, I had never run any adventures before up until we started this Dragon Heist. Well, I take that back. There was like 2 small ones back in the 80s. I think Isle of Dread and Cult of the Reptile God. Other than that, I always homebrewed all my stuff. And even in this Dragon Heist book, I mean, most of it, half of it's homebrew. It's just,
Yeah.
we got one of our players that hasn't played it before. Is that in the book? I'm like, no, that's not in the book. Sorry.
So after you're done with Dragon Heist, will it be back to homebrew or more official content?
Yeah, I think we're gonna stick with the homebrew. So once the actual campaign of Dragon Heist is over, I'm probably guessing that our players are going to be probably about 10th level, and then I'd like to see it right out to 20th. I've got so many ideas just from their backstories and everything that's happened so far that we can have adventures in Waterdeep for a long time.
Yeah, the with pre-published stuff, I always feel like it's way more work than homebrewing.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like people that really like to do the official stuff probably feel the opposite. So,
Yeah. Well, it's like studying for a test. It's just
yeah.
like when I know I have to, so we're at a part where I have to go by the book. And it's just like, man, I'm studying it, trying to memorize it, making myself flashcards, having my wife quiz me, and it's
Oh
just
my
like,
god.
I might be exaggerating a little bit, but, uh, but with homebrew stuff, I'll think about it like all week long up to that point. Just roll stuff around in my head. I'll make like a few bullet points and go from there, and that's about it.
So Rivers RPG channel wants to know how many puzzles have you made?
Oh my goodness. Well, let's see. How many puzzles have I made? Well, there's 60 of them in my book.
Yeah, 60 plus.
So 60 plus. I've got probably another 40 that I'm working on. So I'm going to go with, I'm closing in on the century mark.
I'm surprised it's not more, just because like you probably have made them over the years.
I am older, so I probably forgot a lot of them. Like I threw so many in the 80s and 90s when I used to play it. I can't remember any of those.
Yeah.
Just like I kept terrible notes. I didn't. So yeah, over my lifetime, it's hard to say.
I find that impressive because I think like I can count on my fingers. I think, and might even be able to lose a few the number of puzzles I've made. And then I feel like most of the puzzles I've made are more like puzzle traps than just like straight up puzzles.
Yeah, I think they all are at heart. I mean, if you solve the puzzle wrong, then usually get a shock or something like that. So
yeah. You should have did your puzzle book as a Kickstarter. It would have did really, really well.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I definitely appreciate that. And actually, I started off. I was going to do a Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I had a hard time finding help.
When did the puzzle book come out?
That's why
you do the Kickstarter so you can pay for the help.
That's true. It came out in July. So when I left Gen Con August 2019, I had all intents and purposes of doing a Kickstarter.
Yeah.
And then by the time January rolled around, I was just like, I just want to get this out there. I've been promising this book to my subscribers for like a year and a half.
Yeah.
I just want to get something out there. And so I like cut the number of puzzles in half to 60 and I went from there. And it was honestly, it was a great experience. I went through Drive-Thru RPG and I would recommend that to anybody. It was a little frustrating at times because you're learning stuff like Adobe InDesign and stuff, but my overall experience putting this book out there and working with Drive-Thru RPG and working with the artists that put art in there was fantastic.
Yeah. So the reason I say that is because you like Kickstarter is great because one, you can for the crowdfunding, but it also works as a kind of advertising.
Oh like yeah.
50% of your pledges will come from people that have never heard of you.
I never even considered that.
Yeah. And I feel like you're focusing on something like puzzles, you're really filling a niche within the game that's underserved. Like when Nord Games that traps was it Traps of Treachery or Traps and Treachery? That was great, and they had such a great Kickstarter because they found that niche that wasn't quite being served yet. Because of that, and then I think they were gonna add, like, one of their stretch goals was to add riddles and stuff, and like I know friends of mine are like, I'm backing this because I want them to get the riddles.
Yeah, I back that as well. That's Treacherous Traps.
Treacherous Traps. That's what. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think they got like 25 different puzzles in there as well. So, yeah, that's one thing I did. If there's a puzzle book out there, I went out and grabbed it. There's a few out there besides myself. There's like Nerzagel's got 4 DM kits that all have puzzles in it. I enjoy his stuff. And I'm not just saying that because he's in my Waterdeep campaign, but a good friend of mine. And then Treacherous Traps and Puzzles, Predicaments, and Perplexities, I think, is another one that's out there as well.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things that I don't think we can have enough of. Especially for some of us old school gamers who like to see that stuff in the game.
Absolutely. And I kind of did mine like you did with yours, as far as I more or less created encounters that you can kind of just drop into the game. I mean, you can switch it up to match whatever it is you're doing, but it's not just a puzzle. I mean, most of them can take place in a room. I need something for this room. Boom, there it is. And you use it.
So Steven wants to know, do you only run puzzles with high stakes, or do you have world building elements where people do puzzles, riddles for fun, or with potential rewards for the players?
That's a hard question to answer. I don't think necessarily they're high stakes. And here's the funny part is, as many puzzles as I have, like in my regular campaign, they rarely come up because I wait for that opportunity where they make sense, where I would want to put one. Like in the Xanathar's hideout, there was a door there that I put a puzzle on that was fairly easy to solve. But usually when I'm running puzzles, it's going to be my one shots, and I'll actually build around them. So I have an idea for one, and then I kind of build around that. But as far as, they all have their drawbacks. If you don't answer it correctly, something can happen. You either get cursed, you take damage, trapdoor, whatever it is. But that's a hard question.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of the rule of the game too, right? If you're going to require people to do something, something should happen. Whether it's small or large. It's the same thing with, like, I hate when GMs will ask for dice rolls and they don't matter.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The only rolls that don't matter are the ones we do behind the screen.
The anxiety rolls.
Yes.
Yeah. So Gonzo says it sounds like the second book will be, with the 40 new puzzles, will be a Kickstarter. We'll have to see. Time will tell.
I'm going to at least put 60 in there, Gonzo.
Yeah. Go for the full 100.
We may do that. That's for sure. I've got a lot in the works, so that's definitely a possibility. Bigger and better.
Yeah. So, with everything that's going on in the world, the apocalypse, as I like to call it, worst apocalypse ever.
Oh my goodness.
Where do you find yourself gaming more or less or the same?
I'm actually the same. I work at a military e-commerce store. So when everything hit back in March, we were selling a lot of like bandanas and gaiters and for the people that want to protect themselves virus wise. And then we also sold like a lot of plate carriers and stuff like that people were, thinking it's the end of the world and needed to protect themselves or whatnot. And I actually worked from home for the first month, but I worked harder at home than I did when I was at work because I didn't have as many resources as I do at work. And so I had to work extra hard. And it honestly, since it all began, everything's the same. And I still struggle to find time to both play in my games and to also create content for the channel.
So you said you started the channel as kind of like by accident because you just wanted to put out some puzzles. Mm-hmm. Do you have any plans for where the channel is going to go in the future? Will it just be all puzzles all the time, or you do some other stuff over there?
I'm actually already have branched out, and I kind of when I get an idea, I don't usually think it's going to be successful. There's a few videos that I've done just because I want to do them and I want to share them with people. Sometimes they surprise me, and they do. My main focus is always going to be the puzzles, and I'm always keep myself to at least one a month, if not two a month. But then I'm also starting to do traps. So I'll review like traps from different books. Mm-hmm. So I do traps. I like to do character creations because I like making characters, and I started using like D&D Beyond to do that. So now I'm just recording it as I go, and I'll put out character creations. But I've also done like D&D history. I do quests ideas. I've done backstories, so all kinds of things.
Yeah, I guess we're 6 years into this, and I still don't know what people want.
You guys cover
Yeah,
a lot of great topics. I mean that's one thing about your channel. When I first got back into playing in 2016, it was channels like yours. I'm just like, holy smokes, I need help. This stuff's confusing. And then watching those videos. I mean, that's how I learned all of what I know about Pathfinder, and then 5th edition was YouTube.
yeah. So, have you checked out 2E Pathfinder?
I have not. I barely missed an opportunity at the last Gen Con to play it. And I know, I think Juice is playing it now, and there's a couple other YouTubers that are starting to delve into it, but I haven't looked at it yet. I love 5th edition, and
Yeah,
I don't get to play it enough, so I haven't really branched out yet.
yeah. I mean, I enjoy 5th edition a lot as well. Juice actually invited me to play in a Pathfinder game that's like bi-weekly. So
Oh,
I
nice.
think next week we're doing characters or session 0
Cool.
for that game. And because the barrier that makes the barrier of entry a lot lower, I'm like, all
Mhm.
right, I'll do that. But if I'm going to play a D&D game, I'm just going to play D&D. So yeah,
I like your
I,
style, yeah.
yeah, right. So like, I mean, we never really got into Pathfinder. I have a book around here somewhere, and I've played like a session or two. I think early on we tried doing Dark Sun with Pathfinder,
Okay.
and and then I think like soon after that, 5e dropped, and we're like, oh, we're just gonna play this instead. So, and as I get older, like I just prefer rules light systems. Not that 5e is really rules light, but it's rules light for a D&D game anyway.
You compare it to 1st edition Pathfinder, it's very and 3.5. I mean, it's
Yeah,
very rules light. If it wasn't for 5th edition, I wouldn't be talking to you today. I would have gave up, because I mean, I went from playing Beckme, the basic red box.
yeah,
That's what when I quit in 2002, and then in 2016 I get back into it, and I jump right into Pathfinder. And me and my brother and everybody that I got together to play this, like, what the heck is this? And then
yeah.
I started seeing 5th edition. I was like, yeah, we're switching. That's so much easier.
Well, and like the complexity from my viewpoint is like it's all these like plus ones and plus twos, right? And when you
Mhm.
break them down, with all the choices you get, and so to me that's not really, it's complex but not necessarily interesting. It's like a lot of minutia and microtransactions, where for 5e for me is like, so you don't get as many choices, but when you do, they're like these big blocks, and they seem more relevant, and they fundamentally change how your character operates or what they do.
Absolutely.
So I think that's kind of the draw and appeal to me. I hear 2nd edition Pathfinder does some things pretty well,
Mhm.
so I'm curious to check that out. But it's also weird because it's like their game is made from another game, and then they did another edition of that game, and then like you're all like
It
I
is
don't know,
strange.
you were, it doesn't sound like you were gaming back then, but like we played from second to third, and then into fourth. And when the switch came from third to fourth, there was like a huge rift in the community, and like
Mhm.
the Pathfinder people came and said, "Hey, if you want to keep playing third, you should play this game instead." And they're like, "Okay, take that, money grubbing Wizards of the Coast." And so to me, it's kind of weird to see like now they're doing another edition,
Mhm.
you know, which I mean, I'm sure it probably needs it because third edition needed it really.
Yeah.
They just didn't go in a great direction with fourth, at least not for their audience.
Yeah, that's what I heard. I like to watch a lot of the D&D history videos, and go through time to catch up on that section I missed, because I'm an old school D&Der that never used Thaco, so that's
Yeah,
that's saying something.
yeah. Like if they had long, oh, that's funny because you played the
Yeah, we had hit charts. It's just
yeah,
like, and I think I remember, because I do have some 2nd edition books. I mean, in my beginning days, I took Beckme, and then I took first and second edition, the books that I liked. I mean, because there's more races, especially like the alignment chart. I mean, in
Yeah.
basic D&D, there's only like 3 alignments, and then you go to first edition and there's 9 to choose from. So I mean, I use pieces. And then as soon as I read through THAC0, I read it like 8 times. It's like, nope. We kept our little hit charts.
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah, THAC0 was like that.
yeah.
Well, there was a chart for it, but it was, I guess, but and also I remember like Dragon Magazine put out like it was like a cardboard insert that you could pop out, and it was the THAC0 wheel.
Oh, okay.
It was like this arcane device. You tune things in and it would give you the right number that you needed.
That's awesome. That sounds like you should get something out of a cereal box or something.
Yeah, it kind of had that feel to it for sure. Cool. Although there's other like non D&D games that are rules light that are easy to pick up, like that's probably a good place to start if you're just looking to mix things up. Yeah. And and the best part is, like I said, they're easy to learn, especially in comparison. Like we just did Monster of the Week a couple weeks ago, and like that was super simple. Filling out you feel literally you don't even have to know much about the game to fill out the character sheet. You just read it and go and check boxes, and you're like done.
Wow. Now, is that the name of the system, Monster of the Week, or is
yeah, it's the name of the system.
Yeah, I seen that. I haven't watched it yet, but I seen the thumbnail for it. I just like, oh, okay, they're picking a monster and going up against it. I didn't know what Monster of the Week was. So I was like, oh, interesting.
Yeah, like I had seen it, and it's another Powered by the Apocalypse.
Okay.
So usually when you see those, they're fairly simple to pick up.
Yeah.
And just start playing, which is what I like. Plus, we're all like real busy, now, especially if you're gaming and you're older. You don't have time to read a 500-600 page book and then finally start playing.
That's the way I feel too. Now that I know 5th edition, I mean, and I still don't know a lot of it, but I've been playing it for a few years. I will probably not go to anything else because I don't want to start from scratch and relearn everything. So.
Yeah, I imagine we hear a lot of that too. Like people don't want to learn a new system.
Yeah,
but sometimes, like by learning those new systems and playing new systems, you find things to bring back to that other game that you really, really like.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and you'll find a book or two that will help you as well. I mean, I've got a bookshelf over here. I've got stuff that I picked up from 3.5, from 2nd, from Pathfinder. I mean, and you incorporate that stuff in your game. I mean, so it's pretty cool.
Although, there's still people playing and making games based off of the Beckme stuff. Mm-hmm. Have you looked into the OSR community at all?
I have not. Is that the one that they created but fixed the armor class? Because I isn't there one where they actually went off of a D20 system with the old rules? I could be wrong.
Well, no. So the OSR is like it's not one particular game, right? Mm-hmm. It's but it's based off of like the basic rules where people kind of evolved games from those, and there's actually a bunch of different games, but that it kind of encompasses that kind of play style.
Oh, that makes sense. That's pretty cool.
So it's still out there. That's why it's another reason why edition wars are kind of stupid, is because like no matter what edition it is, someone's still playing it somewhere.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's Facebook groups for each of the editions where people are still playing. Stefan Pogorny from Dwarven Forge basically runs a version of 1st edition still.
Oh, nice.
And when you play in his games, that's what you're playing.
Yeah, there's someone in the chat there that I know from our Discord that just picked up 1st edition. It's going to be running a few 1st edition AD&D games. So it was cool to see our Discord kind of light up with all of these memories of our favorite monsters from back in the day.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's super cool. Like it was fun to play in the game with Stefan, and like honestly, the highlight for me was when someone cast Lightning Bolt, because back in the day they used to bounce off of walls, and so like they cast it hit all the monsters, and then hit the wall, and then bounced back, hit all the monsters again, plus some of the players, like totally fried one of the players.
Yeah, spells were awesome back in the day. I think the 3rd level spell Haste if I'm
Yeah.
not mistaken, I think if you cast haste in AD&D, it would actually age you a year every time you
Yeah.
got hasted. I was just like, oh, that's great.
Yeah, we were talking about that because like we did one video about, basically, other ways to take damage even in 5e,
Mm-hmm.
and like the ghost ages you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so that made us look at the ages for different races, and it's like the Eric Croker has a lifespan of 30 years. And there's a couple other monsters with like a really low lifespan. We're like, wow, one ghost encounter and you could be checked out. You could die of old
Right.
age. But and then that made us think about, back in the day when you cast haste, that would age you a year. So like those, imagine playing those races. You'd want to use those spells sparingly or not at all.
Yeah, be an elf. Just be an elf.
Yeah, just be an elf. And also in the early editions as well, aging was brutal because especially if you were a more physical character, because your mentals would go up, but your
Yes.
physicals would go down.
Mm-hmm.
Except for if you magically got aged, then you just got the penalties.
Yeah. Yeah, that was crazy. Yeah, they had like 5 different levels, like young, adult, middle
Yeah,
age, old, and then venerable.
yeah, that sounds
I don't
about
even know what
right.
that means. What's venerable? I
Really,
don't even know
really
what that's
old.
saying.
It means you're gonna get a lot of penalties to your physical stats.
Yeah.
So yeah, so like your hit points could go down. You could die of like
Mhm.
depending on what your con was, and by aging, you could get enough of a penalty to lower your hit points by
Oh yeah.
enough to kill you.
Oh no.
So yeah, the good old days, sort of. Not really. So what? So when now that you're getting to play more, what kind of characters do you like to play?
I started off with sorcerers, but I think my newfound love is bards. And that's because even though I'm shy in real life, in a game, I love to talk. I mean, it's just, it's DMing is a lot like I used to be a DJ. I used to run, music for 15 years, and I always had to fill in the gaps. I talked all the time, make sure there's no silence. So playing a bard just comes, it comes natural. It's just like as a DM, you talk all the time, and then so the bard was like the closest thing. I love playing charisma based characters and being able to get those like the persuasion and deception and using those to best of my abilities.
Well, 5e has no shortage of charisma characters. That's for
No,
sure.
no, I just made a College of Eloquence bard for the Theros game we're playing. If you haven't seen that subclass, that thing is nuts. At 3rd level, I think the lowest you can roll on a persuasion or deception check is 17.
Yeah, like one of my players in my Court of Worms games is playing one of those.
Oh, that's crazy. And of course I chose it. I was like, yes, this is awesome.
Yeah, and that lowest you can roll has definitely come up.
Has it?
Yeah.
I would think that'd be a nightmare for DMs. I'm like, man, how would I do this? It's just like everybody loves your character. That's just,
Yeah, I mean, I don't it's not like skills aren't magic, so like
yeah.
there's a certain threshold you can push up against, and then it's just not going to work, just because it doesn't make sense.
Right. If someone's hostile to you to begin with, it's not like you're going to change their mind.
Yeah, so I mean, I feel like you could increase the DC for mitigating circumstances like that,
Yeah. Yeah, it
just
makes
because it
sense.
makes sense, or maybe it's just impossible. Like if you killed the guard's mom and he knows who you are, you're probably never going to do very well persuading that person.
That's true. What's your character class? What do you like to play?
Man, I don't know. I don't feel like I have one. I always try and like switch it up from like I'm always thinking, well, what am I playing now? What haven't I played in a while? And that's what I haven't played many bards yet, so
Hmm.
I need to get some more bard love in. Right now, I've been playing a rogue for a while. I tend to multi-class a lot.
That's gonna be
Uh,
my next question for you.
yeah, yeah. So like the two characters that I feel like I've played the longest and the most have been multi-classes. Where the one I'm playing is a rogue scout
Okay.
with a level fighter, and I took a level fighter because I wanted to use a heavy crossbow,
Oh, nice.
and it was just the easy, it was just the easiest way to get the heavy crossbow proficiency. Um, and then the character that I played to 20th level was a 6th level Eldritch Knight, 14th level War Wizard.
Oh, wow. That's a good
So
combination. I like that.
so and they, Wizard was a dwarf, Rogue was human. But but at this point, I've played so many characters. Um, I had a lot of fun playing barbarians in a couple of the Saber dice games.
That's one I need to try. I have never played a barbarian before, but I love the characters. I mean, when I'm running a game and someone brings a barbarian to the table, I love it. I mean, I just think that whole rage thing is interesting.
Yeah, barbarians can be fun, especially because they seem to definitely attract a certain play style
Hmm.
that keeps things moving.
Yeah.
Although I'd imagine, I always feel like they generally would be a nightmare for your puzzles, except for if something needs to be licked.
That's right.
Only exception.
This tastes bitter. What?
Yeah, because usually, and I'm guilty of playing the barbarian that certain way as well. It's like when people are like talking too much, I want to go kick in a door and make something happen.
Yeah, I love that interaction though, that mix where you got some that want to talk things through and trying to
Yeah,
figure things out. Meanwhile, the half orc barbarian's just like smash hits.
yeah. I'll tell you how we figure out what's on the other side of this door. We open it. Yeah, yeah. They're great when the party seems to be paralyzed with indecision.
Yes, absolutely. I
So
can't solve a puzzle. I let the barbarian take care of it. He'll be fine.
so when you're running homebrew stuff, what kind of style of campaign do you like to run?
Um, I like to use a lot of stuff from backstories, and I throw if I'm running a campaign, I throw a lot of lines in the water and see which one has the best bait on it, and then kind of go from there. Play style, I back in the day, I was all about fighting monsters and loot drops and stuff like that, puzzles and everything else. But now coming into fifth edition, and everything, I've found this new found love for role playing. So um, when I start to homebrew this Waterdeep game, it'll probably go more into like we'll probably have like politics and stuff like that. So I'm really enjoying including the characters in the backstory and then the role playing aspect of it as well.
Yeah, I mean the game has definitely moved in a much more narrative direction than
Hmm.
when I started playing and it was like you're at the dungeon door.
Hmm.
What do you do? Go in, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. That's always how my adventures start out. Like every Saturday morning. Okay, this guy wants you to go to a dungeon outside of town
Yeah.
to get something.
Yeah,
Yep.
and and so but and then compared to then now like our games are like you generally average like one combat a session, so
Yeah. Well, that's because there's so much that you can do in a turn. I mean, you've got
yeah.
an action, a bonus action, and then as a player, you're like you want to make this move perfect because you've got this one opportunity, and so you can be indecisive. When back in the day, it's just like I swing, okay, you miss. What do you do? I cast a spell, okay, it hits. What do you do? And it just
Yeah.
less abilities back then.
I mean that's true. You can move through faster that way as well. Although I
Mhm.
do like it when players try and come up with like weird stuff to do
Yeah,
in
that's my
combat,
favorite.
instead of
Absolutely.
just like I hit it with my axe again.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it, especially when they started. They're like, "Is there a vase around, or is there something breakable around, or is
Yeah.
there a chandelier?" I'm like, yes, there is. What are you doing?
Can I throw the table at them?
Yeah,
Make an athletics check. Let's see how well you throw this table at them.
yeah, I love those kind of interactions in combat. That's fun.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, definitely adds to it. So, so what do you have coming up on the channel?
Well, I just released a puzzle video yesterday, which is the first puzzle that was released by Wizards of the Coast for what's going to be in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. It's the Display of Daggers puzzle. And so I guess that came out as a PDF. and immediately I'm like, yeah, I got to present that one. And I just go through the demonstration of that and give a few thoughts about it and things like that. And so I'll probably be preparing a lot for Tasha's. Being focused on puzzles and everything, I'm going to want a lot of puzzle type content. And then I'll
Mm-hmm.
probably do, my goal is to do at least a review of the puzzles to kind of give my thoughts on them and things like that. And then do an actual demonstration of another one from the book. And then also, I'll probably do a character creation video out of what I like that's coming out, which is kind of a toss up now because that genie warlock looks good, and the sorcerer with psionics, that looks fun too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for Tasha's, but also the disappointing part of it is like through the UAs we've kind of seen them all.
Yeah, yeah,
So we know what to expect.
absolutely. Yeah, but that's being on the YouTubes and stuff like that, that's when you're probably going to get the most views, at least for smaller channels like me. Best opportunity to gain some subscribers right away is get that fresh content out and everything. So I'll be looking at a new camera, which would be awesome, kind of a 10K celebration gift, and then and hopefully within the next couple of weeks put out a lot of stuff about it.
Nice. What are you looking for a camera?
There's a Canon M50, I think. I was going to ask you, what do you guys use?
We shoot with Canon D80s.
Was that a Canon D80?
Yeah, is what we shoot with.
Yeah, so yours is pretty good. I've got an old Nikon D3200, and it doesn't focus. So like when I'm doing like my monologue or whatever else, sometimes I'm in focus, sometimes I'm not. Sometimes it just picks that little beholder mini in the background and focuses in on that while I'm
Yeah.
it's just like, oh yeah, so way overdue.
Yeah. I mean that's one of the toughest things about being a YouTuber, right? Is trying to figure out all this stuff.
Yeah.
Because we definitely did not know anything coming into it. I still don't feel like we know anything. So
yeah, you guys do a great job. Like I said, I've been watching you for probably as long as I've been back in the game. I mean, I found you probably in 2016, and definitely watched over the ages. I mean, there's 4 of you. You had the curtain behind you for a while, and then
yes,
went to the newer formats, and you upgraded your cameras and stuff like that. So you guys are doing great.
There's been a lot of evolutions over the years.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, honestly, like, and now, like, it's kind of cool seeing like all the new YouTubers come in, and see, especially like the younger YouTubers, because they're so much better at it than we are. They just they just get it, right. Like they grew up with the platform and they just know how it works.
They know the technology. I mean, their ideas are fresh. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of great channels out there that are up and comers. It's really, really cool to see.
So yeah. The Tasha's is going to have some puzzles in it, so you're excited for that, of course, I guess.
Absolutely.
Yep. And I haven't even really looked to see what's going on with Tasha's. Like we actually put a pretty in-depth piece up on the site, but I kind of want to be surprised about the things that I don't know, because we see so much of it through the Unearthed Arcana.
Right. Yeah, the things that I'm kind of waiting until I get the book in my hands are like the tattoos and the sidekicks. I don't know anything about either one of those, so that'll be like my surprise when I get the book, is to read through those.
So Matthew wants to know, what software do you use in your videos?
Software, I haven't bought any yet. I'm still using free stuff. So I have Windows Movie Maker 2012 that I use to edit the first part, and then to get the background music and overlays, there's a program called VSDC. I think it's VSDC, and it actually does really, really good. It's probably, I would say it's probably the best software you can get for free out there. I mean, they have a pro version, but the VSDC has just been amazing for me.
Yeah, there's so many tools and resources out there. And we actually haven't touched any of our own video editing in a long time. It's been a while.
Very cool.
and I do
Not a
not
fan
miss
of,
it.
yeah, I was gonna say not a fan of the editing area.
You know, nothing will fill you with self-loathing like listening and watching to yourself over and over again.
I have one thing that just worse than that, and that's having my introduction and doing it 30 times because I can't get it right.
Oh, yeah. The struggle
uh,
is real.
yeah.
Um, oh, Joe wanted to ask about dragon puzzles.
Awesome. Yeah, I do have one. It's an older one, and it's on my channel, probably from about 2 or 3 years ago. And it's simply you go through, and it was based on because I had a ranger in my play group that was an archer, and so I put all of these different arrows, and they would encounter these different areas, like this area that was on fire, and there's a dragon head floating in there, and they would have to go and find. They would like find. Fire arrows and poison arrows and acid arrows and stuff like that. And they had to basically they had to match the arrow up with whatever color the head of the dragon was. I called it I was really original with the title of that one. I think I called it Dragon Arrows.
Yeah. So there you go. You can look it up and you'll be able to find it.
Yep,
Dragon
yep,
arrows.
yep. No,
Um,
no favorite dragon. Isn't Joe the one who usually asks about favorite dragon?
he is, but he switched it up for your puzzles. He
I
switched it
see.
up for puzzles, but you can throw your favorite dragon out there if you want.
I've been practicing that one. It's just like, all right, I just got to
I know
prepare
it's
for my
coming.
favorite dragon. Yeah, silver dragon. It wasn't too hard. It's a dragon that's the most social, and
Yeah.
you can actually include it in first level. You can introduce an NPC, and your campaign can go on forever. And then all of a sudden, this dragon shape shifts into a silver dragon in a time that you need it as a DM. And I just think it's neat that they like to actually have humanoid friends, and they'll shift into humanoid form and just be that way for a long time.
Yeah. Once upon a time, all the dragons I think
Mm-hmm.
shape shifted.
Do you remember when you could subdue a dragon?
Yes.
Do you remember that rule?
You had to do
That's
like
pretty,
twice their hit points and some dual damage
yeah.
and
And
not
then you
die.
just like hit him with the flat of the sword, and
Yeah.
they would be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I give up."
I give up. I will serve you now.
Yeah, that's old school stuff there.
That is pretty old school. Had you ever successfully subdued a dragon?
I always DM'd, and no, they never successfully did. Chomp.
Well, were there many attempts?
No, not really. No, they're just excited to fight one. And I used to I remember, I mean, because I would draw out all these dungeons, and so there'd be like this 50 by 50 room with all these 10-foot corridors leading up to it, and then there's just this big green dragon in there with like no way that he could have actually physically gotten there. Or
No reason.
yeah, where's he go to use the bathroom or go out to get groceries or something, because there's like no exit for him.
That was original D&D, my friend.
Yes, absolutely.
And then three rooms down there would be skeletons in there, and then there would be troglodytes in a different room, and an ogre in a different room, and like maybe they were doing something, maybe not. So
Yeah.
first, early D&D was weird. That's
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, I love it though. It's so nostalgic. It's I always love looking back at it.
So, since you gave us your favorite dragon, what about what's your favorite monster to use?
My favorite monster. Again, I have to go on the social side. I love doppelgangers.
Mm.
I love using them for manipulative purposes, and like in my Dragon Heist campaign right now. I've actually got a couple that are friendly. I mean, that are good, that could potentially be allies of the party and stuff. But then there's another gang that's not so friendly and everything. And I don't know. I just like that fact of being able to. I mean, they can shapeshift into different people, introducing them as recurring NPCs, and causing havoc that's not combat related.
Have you looked at Rhyme of the Frost Maiden at all?
I have not looked at that yet, but I hear that it is pretty awesome. It's kind of like ice cold horror or something like that.
Yeah, so they have a section with secrets in it
Okay.
for the players, and one of the secrets is you're actually a doppelganger.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
Yeah, and I think you don't you get different abilities and you don't have your racial traits.
Oh, that is so cool.
If I'm remembering it correctly.
Yeah,
So yeah,
I'll have to check it out. Most of the times I look at they're not modules anymore. I always forget what they are. But I'll just look through them for ideas or monsters or traps or things like that, or encounters. But most of the time, yeah, that's all I pick up those books for.
yeah. I mean, we do the same thing. Like
Mhm.
we never run them. We use them more. We've used them more to cherry pick stuff out of them. And I guess we're also kind of collectors in that regards as well. So we
Yeah,
like to have them, and it is
absolutely.
cool like to just pick through. And sometimes like you just need something for your game, and you just pick out a piece and drop it in your game.
Yeah, yeah. There's
So
a out of the box encounters book that does that. I think too. It's pretty good.
yes, yes, that's the whole point of that. Yeah. And as a GM, I just find that kind of content more useful,
Hmm.
especially if you homebrew a lot of stuff. Right, it's easy.
Right.
Sometimes you just want just a little piece to put in there, or even like I've definitely needed to run something. I'm like, I don't know what I want to do, and I'll string together like 3 encounters from out of the box, and it definitely fills a session for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And that's kind of what I try to focus my entire YouTube channel on is ideas. I kind of like drop off a palette of building blocks out in your yard, and it's up to you to put them and arrange them how you want, or you can just use things as is. And I think that's kind of where I just kind of found what I like. I love presenting an idea. It's like, hey, this is my idea, and then to see in the comments everybody like, hey, that's really cool, but I would probably add this, or I would do this in my
Yeah.
game, or something like that. I love those kind of tools.
Yeah, and it's definitely cool. And then you kind of get some collaboration going on,
Mhm.
via the community.
Yeah, and that's my favorite part about my channel is to put a puzzle video out there and to see people excited about the idea, but also to see the ideas that they came up with. Like, hey, I thought of this, and I'm just like, holy smokes! I like it. I'm like, man, I'm jealous. I didn't think of that. That's an awesome idea. Let's
Yeah.
put it
So
together.
what's going to happen, and it probably already has happened, is quickly you find people have used far more of your stuff in their games than you have.
They have. That's one of the things with content creation is we
Yeah.
don't get as much time to play as everybody else. So it's just like it's
Yeah.
like having to do your homework while all your friends are out in the street playing, ball or something.
Yeah. There's definitely that. For us, it was like the double whammy of because there's more than one of us in the videos. A
Mhm.
lot of times, like the people that are going to be playing in the games, uh, that we play are the same people in these videos with us. So we really don't want to use the stuff we talk about in the videos
Yeah.
because they already know about it. Yeah.
That's why I test my puzzles beforehand with the one shots before I release them now. And that's been amazing for me. And a lot of the players like it too, because I ran them through this adventure, and then a few weeks later one of the puzzles come up that they ran through, and they get to see, the actual presentation. Like, oh yeah, that's what we did.
Joe says, "Do you remember the Sphinx riddle for the Batman cartoon?" I don't think it was for the Batman cartoon. It's just a Sphinx riddle that the Batman cartoon used.
Yeah, I have no idea. I, my memory is not very good anymore.
Oh, the Sphinx riddle, like what animal? It's like what animal walks on all fours in the morning, on
Oh
two
yeah.
legs in the afternoon, and three in the evening.
Ah, right on. Okay. I've heard of that.
Yeah, yeah. So that becomes problematic too. Like we like fun popular riddles or puzzles like that. Then
Yeah.
you can't use them because your players all know them as well. So
Yeah, absolutely.
there's no mystery there for sure.
Right. Yeah. And that's the thing with riddles. I mean, a lot of riddles have been used before. And so you take the chance, either they've seen it before and they're going to know the answer right away, or they haven't seen it before and it's going to take them forever to answer.
Yeah. So you said doppelganger is your favorite monster to use. Is that because you hate your players?
No.
I feel like that's like one of the worst monsters. Although
No.
it'd be cool to be murdered by a doppelganger if the DM didn't let you play the doppelganger and didn't tell anybody.
Well, that's what I used to do back in the day is I would separate the party and I would, I'd have this one person of like, all of a sudden, you're separated, you're by yourself. You turn around and you see yourself looking back at you, and I'd separate the party off and have the doppelgangers throughout the dungeon kind of try to pull them out one by one to replace them. But no, as far as today goes, so I mean, I just like them to, to challenge the players and to just use that little bit of manipulation when needing to.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, now players are wiser, and everyone knows to never split the party. Although we seem to do it anyway.
Absolutely, because it's what it's what our characters would do.
Yeah, yeah, and it is fun. You just need
Yeah.
you need a skillful DM that can kind of like go back and forth between.
How do you feel about that? Are you pretty confident when the party's split and you're not expecting it that you can take care of it, or do you
Yeah,
try to get them back as soon as possible?
I mean the key is just to switch back and forth frequently, and
Yeah.
like the part of it is knowing when to switch too, like to leave so that you're always kind of like leaving them on a bit of a cliffhanger, or even like that's a good place to leave them where there's something maybe you want them to be able to think about a little bit more, and they can think about it while you're doing the rest of the rest of the players instead of everyone sitting there waiting for them to think about it.
Yeah,
I think
that's a good point.
Guy from How to Be a Great Game Master has some videos on that that are really good. He was really good at doing that. I mean, he had ran some like that where we actually ended up doing the party was split, and then we ended up in combat encounters, and then like he would run the initiative in order, and then like use the initiative to switch back and forth from the different players.
Yeah, that would be really cool. Those can be tricky to run, but a lot of times they just end up being fun for everybody, I think.
Yeah. So yeah, doing it artfully and also like sparingly, right? Some tricks are a lot better, a lot more fun if you don't overuse them.
Right. You could throw some doppelgangers in there. They split the party. Oh, hey, the other two come back.
Yeah.
You're all reunited.
Oh, you know what would be cool with that too?
Yeah.
Like might be fun to do is where you do that, the party's still split. You pull those players aside and be like, "Hey, you guys are still off doing this, but I need you to play your evil selves. Why you're still off doing that, and you don't like go do the back and forth." There's some evil things you can do with doppelgangers and get the players involved.
Yes.
Also, too, like that makes me think of like if there's something that kills your character and brings it back as a monster. I'm totally like, oh yeah, I just want to hand the monster over to the players that died. Be like, so they don't have to just sit out and be like, all right, go to town.
That would be awesome. I like those moments. It's a lot of fun, definitely.
Yeah. So we're up on the hour mark. Final thoughts before we head on out?
Just two. Number one, thank you very much for having me on. I've been a fan of Nerdarchy for a long time, and it's awesome to sit and chat with you for an hour. And then the second one is out to anybody else that's watching. Just support your local YouTubers. Throw some comments out there, share their work, comment, subscribe, all that. If you like their content, help them out.
Awesome. And as always, in the description, you can find links to Wally DM. Go check them out. And after this is done being live, it'll be in the pinned post. And until next time, stay nerdy.